Okay, so in these photos we're going to take a look at Newbridge in the 1920s, the 1930s and the 1940s. So this is a picture taken in 1925, and if you can look, you can see the woman here with the pram, and if you look at the size of the pram, huge big pram, and you'll notice that they're using a donkey and cart. So there's no cars on the street. The street itself is not even tarmac, it looks like it's mud. And if you look down in the background, there's people just playing on the streets. So children out playing on the streets, whereas nowadays you wouldn't because of the amount of traffic that's on the streets. And this is a picture taken from about the same position today. So that's up near outside the parish centre. So say behind us here would be the sports centre. So you can see the changes, traffic lights and so on. But you can see back in this time they had telephones, because you can see the telephone cables here and telegraph cables, but there might have only been a couple of telephones in the town, maybe. Not everyone would have had a telephone. Now this is we're just coming down a bit towards the post office from the last picture. We're looking down Eyre Street here, down the back street. So if you turn right here, you'll end up coming up to the Bank of Ireland and the post office. If you turn left here, you end up going out to past the sports centre and St. Conleth's Community College, and you head out towards the railway station. And this is a picture of it in 1925. So look, all the people, and they look to be all men. Actually, there's very few women here. So probably what's happening is there's probably a fair day, so they're coming in to sell things. And there's no cars. And you see the young boys here wearing shorts. That was the way it was back then. And everyone's just out in the middle of the street. And you see that everyone's wearing hats. So wearing hats was a big thing back in those days. And this is taken from the Bank of Ireland, so to your right here will be the post office, and if you turn left again you're heading down towards the sports centre. So we're looking down the main street here, and this is pretty much the same spot back in 1925. If you look at the people, a lot of them are looking at the camera, and the reason for that was because back in those days getting your photo taken was a big deal. So people would often look at the camera because it was unusual to see people taking photos. We look at the street. Again, the street is a lot of mud, and there's not a lot of buildings down the right hand side, but this building up here with the tall tower, that's the town hall, that's still there today. And on the right hand side here will be where the post office is today on Board Namona. But all down the right hand side here was all a British Army barracks. Now by 1925 the British Army had gone, but there was still a barracks in there, which was where soldiers lived. And the old town hall used to be the church for the British Army. So you can see there's dogs here in the street, and you see everyone's wearing caps again. There looks to be a policeman here. And there's no markings on the road, there's no traffic lights. This is the Bank of Ireland, so that building is still there today. It still looks pretty much the same. This is a picture of the bridge, and there's boys down here, maybe they're fishing or something, but again you see where they're wearing hats and they're all looking at the camera. That's the really old bridge now, so that's been replaced a couple of times probably since. And this is a picture taken from up near Royston. So right today down along the side of it here, the path down by the park, and over here you can just see the church. So our school would have been in around here. And down here is what they call the watering gate, so that's still there. It's kind of a semicircular bars down there, and this is where the park would be. Library be down here. This will be Johnson's pub. Just in the background you can see Newbridge College, and this old building used to be the old monastery. So that used to be right on the road, basically at the boardwalk there. And you can see that our school hasn't even been, a lot of it you can't even see it at the time. Now it had been built, but you can't make it out in there. This could be it here maybe. This picture was taken in 1939 when the Liffey froze. You can see people are out skating on the Liffey. They had no ice skates on, but they're just skidding along on their shoes. People wouldn't have had ice skates at the time. I suppose people don't really have ice skates today, but that's what they did. And you can see the boys are wearing short trousers, so that was the way. Boys wore shorts. And that's Newbridge College in the background. That's 1939, and it's the only time that we know of that the Liffey actually froze, so it must have been very cold that winter. Now this is 1940, and this is taken basically right behind us here would be the post office. So we're looking down, and down this road here will be the sports centre and the community college, and then out to the graveyard. So you can see at this stage, 1940, there are cars. No, not the same as the cars we have today, but there are cars at the time. And this is Young's Medical Hall, that's still there, and that little light up there saying Young Chemist, that's still there to this day. Now this is the main street today, and we're going to look at a couple of pictures of the main street in 1940. It's the main street in 1940, so you can see at this stage there are cars. But you can also see, if you look closely, you can see there's bicycles parked along the shops, and these things, they call these awnings, and these are put up so that the sun wouldn't be shining in through the window, and if they were selling clothes or whatever, if the sun was shining in really hard, the clothes would lose their colour. So that's why they put these up. But that's all up along the main street, so those buildings would still be there. You might recognise some of them. And here's a cafe here. So this is up near Judge Roy Bean's and the entrance to the Whitewater, and the O2 shop just to your right here. And this is called Moorfield Terrace. Now these buildings will all be still there. I'm going to show you a picture now in 19. So you do the same, pretty much the same area, 1940. And the buildings you can see there look exactly the same. Look at the boys, they're all looking at the camera. These are maybe some girls over here too, I can't quite make it out. But in here to the right will be where the Whitewater is. You can see there's telegraph poles, but there's no markings on the road. So there's one or two cars down the road there, but there was no markings on the road because there was very little traffic, so they didn't really need them. Now this is Newbridge into the 1950s, so we'll go a little bit further than I said we would, but you can see this is Neeson's pub. That's still there. People still call it Neeson's, although I think the name painted up is McDonald's, but people still refer to it as Neeson's. And see the man there with the apron, so he would have worked in there. So people often wore aprons when they're working in shops or pubs. And see there's a lot of dogs there. And now there's a horse and cart, but there are cars, and there's more cars you'll see than there would have been in previous pictures, but there's still a lot of people on bicycles parked here. And again, there's no road markings, which tells us that there wasn't a lot of traffic at the time. And you see this kind of grass area, that means they've knocked down all the British Army barracks at this time, or a lot of it down the right hand side was knocked down. And this is it today. So we got McDonald's, which was Neeson's, and there's the man's shop. That's pretty much the same scene today. And we're back to the main street. So this is a modern day from the bridge looking up the main street. This is the 1950s now, looking up the main street, pretty much from the same scene. Again, look at the men here standing outside, so they're wearing those white aprons, and there's a woman pushing the pram. And you can see she has to push the pram, she has to lean the pram back to get up the curb here, if you can look at that. It's a big huge pram. And you see a lot of bicycles parked outside all the shops. And your man here just cycling right across the road, not even looking for any cars, because there's probably very little cars going up and down the road, so you could probably do that and get away with it most times, whereas today you wouldn't do that. So you can see there's a few cars back in the 1950s, but still an awful lot of bicycles. A few dogs walking around too. So this today would be just here, of course, it says Guineas, that would be basically Johnson's pub today, and then you'd work your way on up from there. And then this picture is kind of taken from outside Johnson's pub looking at the bridge. Now that's the old bridge, and that would have been replaced maybe 20 years ago. That bridge would have been there when I was going to school anyway. And you can see this is the monastery. So this little building here. So the monastery used to be right out basically on the boardwalk almost. But that's knocked down and then it was built further back in. So our school would be in behind these trees here. And you can see, look at the cars, just parked anywhere at all. Didn't matter because any other cars, there was so few cars, it didn't really matter where you parked. Someone's motorbike here. And a few big trees, a lot of these trees now are gone. They would have been cut down since then. You can see there's no traffic lights. There is actually a sign, I think that's a danger children sign, because there would have been schools down here, so they had that at least. But there's no traffic lights, no road markings, and these fellas here just pulled in anywhere they like. And this is the same sort of area, just taken from the air. It's the same bridge, and you can see that that's the monastery there. An old little house in here, I don't ever remember that being there. But yeah, no traffic lights or nothing like that. No, our school, that's a shed actually in the front yard of our school. So our school will be just to the right of this photo here. So this is looking across at the kiosk. So behind us here would be the bus stop, and up to our left would be the post office. It's on the main street now today. And this would kind of be the same scene back in the 1950s. Again, people have more cars at the time. And see this here, this Texaco. So people used to pull in for petrol there on the main street. You see little petrol pumps there. Now you'd never see a petrol station now on the main street. And here's a phone box, of course, because people definitely didn't have mobile phones, and most people didn't have even phones in their houses. So the public phone box, that's where you go to make phone calls. Now this Grand Hotel, we looked at a picture from the 1930s earlier. This is what today is Judge Roy Bean. So into your right here now is the Whitewater, and this is where an Esso used to be a petrol station. You can see these are the old petrol pumps, big tall petrol pumps they were. And right there, that's where Michael Murphy's is. This picture we taken from about outside where Carphone Warehouse is. So you see TJ McCabe's, that's still there, although I think it's closed down now. And further down here will be, this is where the AIB would be. So just on the same side of the street if this photo is taken, Penny's will be just down here a little bit. This is the church, and very little has actually changed in the church, I suppose. Okay, now I'll see if I can explain this to you here. So our school will be just off to the side of this photo here. So up, this is the bridge, and you turn up by the library here, and you come up, this road is still here. You come around here, and there's the water tower, that's still there. So the Whitewater will be all in here. This used to be what they call the Irish Ropes. It was a big factory, and they made carpets, and they were a big employer in the town. So you'd come down here, Lidl would be in here, but you would turn down here. There was no road going straight on out here. The road would turn here and it would come out at this building here, which today is Judge Roy Bean's. So this is it from another angle. So there's the church, come over the bridge, come up by the library here, up what I would call the back way anyway, and up, there's the water tower. That's the turnout for Liffey Hall out there. Come down, this is all the Whitewater in here. So this is, again, what I just said was called, this factory was called the Irish Ropes. And you come down here, and you would actually turn down then this road here, which is actually the cinema part of the libraries, or the Whitewater is here. So that's where the road went, you know, almost into the back of the car park for the Whitewater. And the road ended there, came out along here, and it came out with Judge Roy Bean. So all this area here was all just fields. So the road didn't even go on. And today Dunn Stores is built here and so on. And you can see the hay in the fields, and the hay was stacked up in these little kind of mounds. They didn't even bale it. That would have been all cut by hand probably. And that's where that road would have come out. So it would have basically come right down through here, and it would have come out here, and that would have been the end of that road. And that's it. That's Newbridge in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and we even went into the 1950s there.